Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Lori Sylvia with Rally Recruitment Marketing, and I want to welcome all of you to today's webinar on Career Site Upgrade in 6 weeks. Today's webinar is being sponsored by Clinch, and I want to thank them for their partnership and their support of the Rally Recruitment Marketing community and helping us to bring great educational resources and webinars like these to you. Okay, so let me introduce today's speakers. So with me today are James Ellis, employer brand expert, author, and podcast host, as well as Belinda Cawthorne, who is head of enablement for recruitment marketing at Clinch. Hello, Belinda and James.
Hi, Laurie.
Hello,
hey,
hello.
James.
Hey, Belinda, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Good.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm very excited that you agreed to do this webinar and share your expertise around career sites, because we all have a career site and a career site is never done, I feel like. So why don't you both introduce yourselves to the community and then we can get started. So James, why don't you go first?
Sure. So I'm the employer brand nerd. It's what I do. I've been doing it for, I guess, 8 years now. I've worked at places, agencies, and in-house and consulting and all this stuff. Here's the deal. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. It's all I think about aside from my 7-year-old. I'm sorry, soon to be 7-year-old. She would correct me. But this is all I think about. And so I've been lucky enough to write it down and podcast about it and think about it and all that stuff. So rather than say, hey, you should go buy a book, you should go to employerbrandbook.com. It's free and open source. You can get everything I've written there. Literally, it's a Google Doc. You just copy and paste it and take it. So, my goal with it was always just to kind of help everybody learn and get a little better with stuff. So hopefully you get some value out of it.
Thank you. Yeah, great resource. So I definitely encourage everyone to do that. Everyone in the Rally community is all about learning new strategies and skills, and James is a great resource for that. So thank you. And Belinda, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit more about Clinch and also your role there.
Yep, sure. Well, it's hard coming after James like that. But I'm Belinda. Everyone always calls me Belle. And so my role is all about recruitment marketing. And at Clinch, it's about recruitment marketing sitting at the top of that recruitment funnel. And we integrate seamlessly with your ATS. And we're passionate about supporting our clients in different recruitment marketing strategies to be able to really personalize and engage that candidate experience, build and nurture those talent networks, amplifying your employer brand so that you're creating that desire, that want in those job seekers to come in and apply for one of your roles, keeping your organization front of mind. And we're really passionate also about an implementation that's quick and easy, simple, because everybody's busy. We do that heavy lifting for you so that you can be seeing the return on investment straight away. So it's all about getting those analytics to be able to help guide our employer brand specialists, those recruiters in where to best spend their time and effort. So that's just a little bit about Clinch.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you guys again for being a sponsor of the Rally community. Clinch was one of the first sponsors of the Rally community when I founded it 4 years ago. And so you guys have really been there all along, committed to helping teach the industry the latest marketing skills. And I think you guys have a lot of expertise around career sites and marketing automation, which we won't probably talk too much about marketing automation today, probably mostly focused on career sites, but I just wanted to mention that because I think that you guys are a great resource for that as well. So, all right. So why don't we, let me tell you guys a little bit more about Rally. I guess for those of you who might be new to joining us on the webinar for the first time, and maybe you're meeting me for the first time and hearing about Rally for the first time. So Rally Recruitment Marketing is the largest community of about 30,000 practitioners across HR and talent acquisition and marketing, all focused on learning the latest strategies and skills in recruitment marketing and employer branding, talent attraction. So we have tons of content and resources, free resources with templates and idea books and how-to guides to teach you strategies around using digital marketing and social media management, as well as content, email, web, all these new marketing strategies to help you attract and engage and recruit talent to your organization. We have a really great blog that's a practitioner contributed blog at rallyrecruitmentmarketing.com. And we also host a virtual conference twice a year. The next one is coming up on December 8th. It's called Rally Forward. So I really encourage you to join us. We've got a great keynote speaker who is the author of a book called The Motivation Code. And so everyone is like concerned right now about the fact that there's a labor shortage and candidates are leaving jobs, the great resignation, also the great opportunity. He's going to help us understand a little bit about what's motivating candidates right now. And as well, we produce the Rally Awards, which is the most coveted industry awards program for recognizing practitioners and teams using social and digital strategies for recruiting. And we recently launched a new analytics and benchmarking tool to help you understand how to convey, how to track and measure your impact and convey that to your leadership. So that's a bit about Rally. But here today, we are focused on webinars, and we usually do webinars once or twice a month. And are lucky enough to get great speakers like James and Belinda who will come and share their expertise with all of you. So here's what we're going to cover on today's webinar. We're going to look at how to make incremental but effective upgrades in as little as 6 weeks to your career site. And what are the essential elements of a great career site that can make your recruitment marketing and your employer branding and your talent attraction efforts super effective, because the career site is really the foundation of that. And then what are some quick wins and actionable takeaways that you can walk away with today? We really want to help you get started quickly and make an impact quickly. And how do you navigate some of those internal complexities, both process and stakeholder buy-in, as well as technology to help you be successful with this. And if you have any questions for James and Belinda during today's webinar, I want to encourage you to type your question into the Q&A button chat window at the bottom of your Zoom screen here. And also, Aaron from the Rally team is there. So if you have any questions or need any support during the webinar today, you can just message Aaron. He's there in chat. But I encourage you to put your questions in, and we'll make sure that there's time at the end to answer your questions. All right, so let's dive in and discuss upgrading your career site in 6 weeks. So our two speakers today are going to share their strategies for making these incremental yet effective upgrades so that you can really make an impact on your recruiting strategy. And James, I'd love for you to start us off. Tell us, in your experience, what are those essential elements for a great career site?
So I tend to approach it, everybody remembers their high school health class when their gym professor tried to teach them, the birds, the bees, and all the other fun stuff. In my health class, I learned Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Everybody's going, oh my, I'm having flashbacks to 10th grade health class, and you're welcome. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for those of you who have not had that flashback, starts off by simply saying, look, it's really hard to worry about food when you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. And it's really hard to worry about, finding happiness when you're hungry. And it's really hard to find some sort of personal self-esteem and self-actualization if you're not happy, right? It's a stack of things. Content for jobs is kind of the same way. You have to start with the brand. Who is this company? Why is that important? Well, it's real simple. If the best job in the world is being offered to me by a company I would never, ever, ever, ever in the world work for, either because it's far away or because it's anathema to my own personal values, that's not a dream job. That's a nothing job. That doesn't exist. So it starts brand, and then location, which is a fuzzy concept in this day of being remote. Of course, it's about, can I be in this organization? Can I be part of it? Can I connect to it? Is it someplace is it available to me? Or do I have to move to the other side of the globe? Then can I do the job? That's another piece of content. Is this understanding what that job's all about? How does it work? Do I have those skills? Do I have the temperament, so to speak? Beyond that becomes what some people might call culture, some people might call microculture. To me, it's about the experience of working at this job. We tend to be blah, 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 blah. So the job may be the same. In fact, I once did a thing where I realized I pulled the job descriptions of a project manager from both Google and American Standard, and they were functionally the same. And I went, yeah, but there's no way in heck these are the same experiences. These are radically different experiences. Nothing wrong with American Standard. They make lovely toilets, but they're not Google. And Google is not American Standard. So that's it's not a good or bad thing. It's just they're very different experiences. It's all leading to that idea of, will I be satisfied at that? So to me, if you stack that content in the right way, people will go, I get it. And they can kind of project themselves into this role and in this company and this team and say, yeah, I want to be here. Or just as powerfully, oh God, no, please never. And they run away and you never see from them again. But to me, that's how I approach content on a career site.
And I think with that, building on that, it's then with that content, how do you create that lasting impression? There's so much noise in the market. So how is it then that it's your organization that's front of mind for when they're then ready to apply for a role? Because they're not necessarily ready right now, but they will be later down the track as you nurture them and engage them and send them that content that drives that desire and want to go, hey, look, I really love that company. I'm going to keep my eye on that company as well. And then I think with that, it's then when you think about that content, taking a step back and go, well, who is that target audience? Is not for everybody, like what James has just said. You know, the culture of different places is going to fit one person, but not necessarily another person. So it's keeping that nuance and thinking about then, well, what are those roles? So is it the hard to fill roles, business critical roles? What are the roles that we fill day to day? And then thinking about that messaging for each of those. So that's what I think as well in terms of that content.
I want to jump on that because I think you used a word that I don't think we use nearly enough, and it's that word desire. Right? Yeah. We want candidates to desire working for us, but it seems so much the standard expectation for recruiting is, well, we got them to apply. We convinced them. We grabbed their arm and twisted it behind their back and we got them to apply. You don't want to force people or cajole people into applying. You want them to want to apply. In the same way that people want the new Taylor Swift album, they should want to work for and that the only way you create that kind of desire is to get real specific about what you offer and what the experience is. Job postings that are really vague or, stolen from other teams or stolen from other companies, let's not lie, filling it full of content that sounds like every other business, it doesn't get you there. Like I did an audit once of pharmaceutical companies. I asked Google who are the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in the US and said, here's the list. And I went to their job sites and I did screen grabs of their home pages and I covered up the logos. Turns out they all love the color blue. I don't know what that's about, but they all look the darn same. Also, if you read it, you can't tell the difference between them because they all say the same thing. We love to make change and we're innovative. Well, you're a pharmaceutical company. You're making things. So yeah, I should hope so. And two, we like to save lives. Again, your pharmaceutical companies explain to me the pharmaceutical company not here to save lives, but that's what they all said. Differentiation creates the opportunity for desire. And so spelling that out, why are you different? How are you different? And in what way are you different? That's how you create desire.
And the WIFM, what's in it for me? What's in it for the job seeker? What's in it for the candidate to then become an employee? It's that change management piece that you bring into that. And I think that's key. So we know that's benefits, like making it quick and easy to find on that career site. What are the benefits? What's that remote or flexible working, hybrid working? Because it's such a hot topic and such an important piece in our day-to-day lives now. And I think another piece with that is, one of the key reasons why people leave a role or what they're looking to go into a new role is the manager, the hiring manager. So, what does that look like? And can I, as James said, project yourself? So can I see myself working there? So that's when we think, bringing it back then for you, Laurie, when we're thinking about essentials, that content, that's what's in it for me, thinking about that. But not content also can be quite overwhelming. So thinking about the fact, oh my goodness, I've got to create all this content. What does that look like? Versus repurpose some content. Have a look. What have you got? People have great content on their corporate sites. Bring that in, paraphrase it a little bit, tweak it a little bit based on the audience, that target audience. Then use your analytics to guide you in terms of what's working, what's not.
And James, what do you think I see employee stories here. In your experience, what's an effective use of employee stories on a career site?
Look, I make my living helping recruiters tell a story, but in the end, I know it's marketing. It's a spin job. I help them write commercials. You know what matters is when your friend says, I like this job, I like this company. In the same way, if you're buying a car and they say, I really like this car, that is worth its weight in gold, far more than any number of commercials you might see on TV. So it's about getting that. The word authentic is so overused, but here I am using it. So I apologize in advance. And yet I'm not beating myself up too hard. It needs to be that's how you create that authentic content. There's a lot less kind of perceived sense of, oh, they're biased, right? You know, when I say a company is great, technically I'm being paid to say that. Okay, let's just be clear. Those people are not. They're being paid to work there. And if they say it's great, that must be more true. So the question is, if those stories exist, and to be brutally clear, they do. And simply every single person, don't just focus on your leadership, please. Every single person has a story to tell. It's your job to pull it out, maybe not like pulling teeth, but to extract it in an easy way, in a digestible way, in a scalable way. Those are important words, and collect it so that you can do things with it. Now, I have all sorts of different maps on if you can collect those stories, how do you use it? There's 20 ways to use it. There's 20 channels to use it, 20 platforms on which to use it. You can use it on the same website 3 different ways. I promise you, as a video, as a podcast, as a quote in a testimonial, as a quote embedded on a job posting, it's the same content, but it's useful in different ways. So really it's about step 1, collect those stories.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well then, all right, let's take another look at content here. What are the pro tips? So you mentioned repurposing. What else should we think about when we consider repurposing all the great content that we'll be creating?
I think the first thing to do is to approach it. I think most of us, when we think about, oh, I have to tell these stories, I have to get these stories out, you think, oh, I have to be the journalist. I have to stand at their desk or book a half-hour meeting and have a conversation and take notes and take quotes and go, well, explain to me what you do. And you're absorbing all this. And then you have to go, okay, now I sort of kind of know what a data scientist does. Oof, what am I going to do with this? And you go back to your desk and you're like, I'm going to puke it all up on a page and puke it all down and write it all down. And maybe you edit and you tweak it. And you're like, does that make any sense? And you send it back to them and they go, yeah, no, that's not, wow, who did you interview? That's not true. That's not right. Wow. Okay. No, it's actually this way. And they send it back to you and blah, 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 blah. And you go, that's about 10 hours of work to turn into a piece of content. I hate that. I love journalism, hate that model. If you have lots of journalists at the ready, go for it. But there's a lot other ways to do it. I've done it where we record videos like this. I pull out a 2-minute snippet and bam, congratulations, you're done. So that's it. You throw a little title card in, you throw a little end roll in and boom, 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 you're done. That's a total, the editing time can be 20 minutes if you do it right. You can do it in a Google form where you say, here are 10 questions you'd like to ask, send it out to people. And don't just send it out to everybody. That doesn't work. You have to snowball it, right? Start slow, get 10 people to do it. When I did it at Groupon, I sent it to the first 10 people who were really excited to help some weird employer brand person. I got 5 responses. 2 of them were usable. And I thought, that's great. And now the person who was working next to me said, oh, that's a horrible ratio. I said, no. You just need to start. Once people see, oh, is that why you were asking for that information? That's how you're going to use it. I want to help too. And as you start to roll that stuff out, 6 months into this project, it was a free Google form. It was a free, the way I was pushing out on the website, it was very easy to do. It was very inexpensive. I didn't have to do any work to it. I took the photos on my own on my own phone. It was really not complicated. A couple of months in, I had managers coming to me and said, how do I get my best employees on that? I want to use that as a reward. What started by me pulling teeth ended up, it took on a life of its own. People saw it as value and reward, and they wanted to carry the burden for that stuff. So when you think about making content, think about the shape and format of that content. You do not need the TED Talk or the New York Times profile of a person's life. You need just enough content for someone to go, oh, I kind of get what that job's like. Oh, I kind of get what that culture is. Oh, it's adding flavor to some stated ideas in the beginning, and away you go.
And you just touched on employee generated content. Yeah. You're facilitating with the Google form or some other way, creating that content. But how do you create an environment where employees are generating the content themselves, and then you can share that back out through your career site?
You go, James.
Okay.
I think it's a hot topic in the market at the moment employee generated content because it's all about, you might, from a corporate experience, you might create a $10,000 video, which says has all the nice bells and whistles. And then you've got an employee who just whizzes around the team and goes, say something about why you love working here or whatever it might be. 2 minutes. That's the one that will probably get most of the hits and that engagement and so on. And that's where that employee generated content comes into play. And it's so powerful. And you've got the stat there and the reason, because job seekers are 3 times more likely to trust that content because it's authentic. And I think videos are also key with that. And the reason why is because you can see somebody's enthusiasm and passion and their interest. So it's a really important piece of insights that you need to be popping onto your career site.
Yeah, I think most companies approach employee generated content a little wrong-headed. They think, okay, how do we incentivize this stuff? Glassdoor has 50 million reviews and not a single one of them was paid. Blind is chock full of people complaining about their company. Not a single one of them is paid. Comparably, got lots and lots and lots and lots of people reviewing. None of them are paid. They're not incentivized to do these things. People want to tell their story. They're desperate to tell their story. What limits them, especially when they want to tell a positive story, is any sense of guidelines. Really, if you're an employee at a company and it's not been made crystal clear what the rules are, what you're not allowed and you are allowed to say, it's far smarter strategy to simply clam up and not say anything for fear that you might say something wrong and thus get fired. No one wants to be fired. If you implement some guide rules and some guidelines that this is what's okay and these are the places it's paid, without telling them these are the talking points and be a parrot and a mind a bird, repeat these things 17 times. We're a great place to work. We're a great place to work. It's not about that. Tell your story. But give them guidelines, encourage them that this is valuable, this is useful. In my, the Groupon story, it wasn't until people saw it, they went, oh, is that how you're using it? If some stranger, who's never met me, and I say, give me some good quotes, they're going to say nothing. You got to kind of show them, look, this is how I'm using it. People feel great. That was the best part about that project is it really took off when those first people's profiles go up and they started to share it on their own on Facebook and Twitter. And they said, look, I can't believe my company did that. Ball rolling, ball rolling, ball rolling. It's just, it's not that you need to create the demand. The demand is there. You simply have to direct it in a safe and effective and valuable way.
Agree. And it also has that employee engagement piece as well. So we have clients, exactly what James is saying, that put on their internal site some guidelines around how do you create that content, where do you put it, how do you put it there. So not saying what you need to say, but how, like the structure and the framework around it. And it's got so popular to the point that, one of our clients, she's got lists of employees that are really wanting to be involved because they can see, it's nice to share your story and where you've been and where you've got to and so on. People like to do that. So I think that having that as a tool and a resource is great.
Yeah, the thing you actually, if you're running the employer brand or running the website, what you actually offer is attention from outside audiences. If they provide a story, you can give it thousands of eyeballs. Like they want to tell that story, and what you're offering is the chance to get it shown, get it seen, get it sent out. And before you advance to the next slide, I just want to talk about videos for 1 second, because I want to admit publicly in front of all these wonderful people right now, some of whom I know, some of whom I don't. Hey, Chloe, is that I am a latecomer when it comes to video. Like I poo-pooed video for the longest time. Like I was like, oh, I hate video. Video is the worst. It's such a pain to make. I look for information. I have to scroll through a 4-minute video to find the answer to this thing I want. Just give me the text and bam, it's done. Video was the worst. And then I realized the power of it, because once you make 30-second video, 2-minute video, 5-minute video, there's no rules on limits. And I will happily talk about that all day long. Once you make a video, it is so insanely repurposable. If you do it granularly, you can post it on your career site. You can post it in your job posting. You can post it on LinkedIn. You can post it on your social. You can put over and it can be outreach for candidates. It can be, there's so many uses. And if you're talking about repurposing, to me, there is no other piece of content that is re-squeezable in terms of a lemon and juice kind of situation like a piece of video. You can use that thing over and over and over again. And provided you don't talk about the day's news or talk about an office that you're about to leave, you can use it for years to come.
Yeah. And the ROI from that as well, from our research, is that individuals, job seekers who engage with those videos are 4 times more likely to be hired because
Yeah,
they're
totally.
self-selecting in, they're engaging in with that content, thinking about projecting as to whether they want to work for that organization.
Because
Well,
it turns out what you don't want is the person who just says, oh, there's an apply button, I'll hit the apply button.
No.
These are
No.
people who are looking for a job or any job. And what you want to hire is the person who wants this job, which means you need to give them more information. And I know Clinch has such amazing aggregate data that says people who watch and look at more content are not just the people who are more likely to apply, because who cares? What you care about is these are the people more likely to get the interview and more likely to get the hire. And that is to me, and I don't know if we're going to touch about this, the goal of a career site ultimately is not to garner applications, it's to create hires. And that is something I think as an industry, we struggle with and don't do a great job kind of managing.
And I don't even want to gloss over what Belinda just said about her own research showing the influence of video on candidates and their candidate journey. I mean, I'm not sure that that's research. I think that that's actually like real data that comes from users of your platform and having a career site platform that can measure that. So if you're investing in the process of creating videos or you're getting videos and you're featuring those videos in your career site, you want to know what does that candidate journey look like and how influential is this type of content in driving someone to apply and linking that to hire. So I wanted to just mention that. And speaking of content, I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do with our career site is not only just drive traffic to our career site, but pull traffic in. And so a career site that's really been optimized for search engines is really important. Belinda, what are some of the pro tips that you can share with us here?
Yeah, the other piece here is around keywords. So what we can see is what are the most common keywords that job seekers are actually searching for on the career site. And I think it's so interesting because that's power as well, isn't it? Like one of our clients, you could see straight away that athletics was a key piece for their university as an example. And so from there, you want to make sure that you've got athletics in the content that you're popping out or the blogs or in your job descriptions so that when they're searching that information comes straight out. So that's another key tip as well in terms of thinking about what are those keywords that individuals are searching for and making sure you have that information in your content.
Yeah, and there's another way to think about search, especially on a platform where you can actually look at search terms used on the site. You can actually see what people are looking for on your site. So one of the most interesting questions is, I feel like 10 years ago, we were all like SEO, 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 and it kind of quietly got put away. It's like, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about that anymore. Yeah, I'm sorry, but Google for Jobs is for real, guys. It's that's SEO. And by the way, how people search for jobs, it's SEO. It's not search engine for Google, it's any search engine. So what you get to learn are things like, what is the term people use for that job? Are they looking for, and this is an inside joke for people who know me, SR.SWE senior or, data, is that right? In terms of senior software engineer data? No one searches for that term, except somebody in your organization may say, no, that's our standard way of saying that. But now if you look at your search results, you can say, no one's searching for that term and I have the data to prove it. Let's talk about how to spell these titles out in a way that people actually search for it. Because when you actually match what they're searching for, you raise up in the rankings. If all your jobs are listed as SWEs, they fall at the bottom and there's no surprise why no one's applying. If you use the same term that people are using, you actually get raised in the rankings. And the fastest way to do that is to see your data, not aggregate data, which is nice, but your actual data in the search.
Yep. This is really important. This is one of the things I think no matter what you're looking to upgrade for your career site, think about the different ways that you're driving traffic, but also pulling traffic. So please think about your SEO strategy going into 2022. And so another thing, it's not just text, but I mean, videos as well as imagery also, can help you with search, believe it or not. But tell us a little bit more about the imagery side of the content of your career site. So Belinda, do you want to start here?
Yep, happy to. And I think here it's around thinking about your target audience, thinking about the diversity and thinking about that inclusiveness. So if I'm searching on a career site, I'm thinking about can I work there? Are there people like me in there? Will I belong there? So having that sense of inclusion and belonging. And a recent McKinsey study that came out was saying that 39% of job seekers don't accept a role because of the lack of inclusiveness. So that's where imagery plays such a powerful role, thinking about what kind of imagery really showcases your brand, because the career site is the window into your organization.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of diversity, I mean, let's be fair. People who look like me, we're not in the majority, and maybe we never were. And once you look at the data, it's like, why is everything geared towards people who look like me? Why aren't we expecting women to be all over the website? Why aren't we expecting people of color to be all over a website? That's not something that the DEI team has to encourage. If you're trying to find talent wherever that talent lives, stop putting only people who look like me. I mean, they're people with hair. You want to hire them too. They're not, they don't have to just be, as smooth as this. But at the same time, visuals are interesting because they provide that kind of flavor, quality to say this is what it feels like and looks like. And I've had really interesting arguments with people about, do you go fully like all but stock art, like crisp, clean, hired a team, we got lights and kits to make it look perfect and glossy? Or do you go full authentic where it's like, hey, this was the day at the work party where we made a balloon room in somebody's office, or they went on vacation for 2 weeks and we tinfoiled their whole place. And honestly, the answer is really a mixture of both, because the day you tinfoil someone's office is not what you'd call a standard day. I mean, if it is, please let's talk. I'm just interested.
Do you want to work there?
I'm curious more than anything else. Okay. And at the same time, that glossy, perfect, everybody looks pretty and everybody looks like models, that's not real too. But the connection between the two allows people to draw connections to say, okay, I get a sense of, they're kind of triangulating. I don't see the job I want, but I can see the stuff that you care about. I can see the stuff that the environment that you're working in, some of the people who work there, and I can start to play around with it. At the same time, the SEO value of images is real. You need to tag your images. You need to talk about it and be very particular about it. And we could do a whole hour on SEO. I'm sure Lori's got stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of stuff about that stuff. But use your images, not just to say, gosh, we haven't had an image in a while, let's throw something in there, but to tell that story and to support your goals for traffic.
And I would even add into that, and Belinda, you could tell us more about this, is that when people are maybe first getting to your career site, a lot of that is someone searching for a job. So they may not land on the homepage of your career site. They may start at a particular job description or a job family page. So the ability to embed images into your job descriptions is really a requirement today. I mean, I think if you're using an ATS that's creating those job description pages for you, and they're just limiting you to text, you're missing that opportunity to connect with people and also tell your culture story right within the job description.
Yes, spot on.
My metrics show anywhere from 75 to 80% of all inbound traffic start at a job page.
Oh, wow.
And so it's I think a smart strategy is to don't think of them as jobs, think of them as landing pages. How do you concatenate and add in more content that tells your story? One of the things, and I'm not pitching Clinch here, even though I'm a big fan, one of the things I like that Clinch does is that it creates templates for teams. So you can say, here's our data science team, and you have a very different template wrapping around that job posting as you do, say, a sales job or a legal job. And so you can tell different stories, but you have to start by thinking of those pages as landing pages, meaning it's not just the job, it's not just about getting them to apply, it's about giving them enough information that they want to apply, not just that they deign to apply.
And I think those enhanced job description pages that you're talking about, Laurie, as well, I just see it as low-hanging fruit, because if James says research shows 85% of job seekers go straight onto that job page, they're missing out on your beautifully branded career site. So think about your job description page. Usually, not always, but it just has all the words. So it's not keeping it sticky. It's not making it sticky for job seekers to stay in there, engage with your brand, want to stay and click, as opposed to move off and go to a competitor site. So thinking about having those recommended jobs, recommended content, having that there based on the individual's browsing history. You have some videos on what's a day in the life look like, specifically for that area and that team, or a call to action action. Have a call to action up there, such as join a job alert, have that job alert, subscribe to a job alert, or join the talent community, have that type of thing. So I just see that as low hanging fruit, because you've only got 1 to 2 minutes to engage a job seeker before they're off. So engage them quickly, make it efficient so that they want to stay on and keep looking at creating that desire actually to want to work for you.
There's the magic words again.
Desire.
Yeah, don't think that your ATS can only accept text. You can actually, on most ATSs, you can actually embed videos and photos in it. Now, I will say that when those jobs get posted out to places like Indeed and LinkedIn, they get stripped out. But most of those platforms are designed to kick you back to your job on your page where your videos and photos will show. So don't think of it as here's a block of text I can't touch. Think about how do you embed more of that storytelling materials inside that. That includes links. That includes, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can do. It's just that we've all been kind of mentally trained that says, just treat it like a lawyer, only text, and it, it's got to be boring. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be.
No, those days have gone now.
Yeah.
You need, because other organizations are doing it. So if you've got 2 organizations, one's got the really nice insight into their brand on that page and the other one doesn't, which one are you looking at and spending that time? Which one's going to return back to that career site? We want returning visitors. They're self-selecting. They're 4 times more likely to be hired. They're the people that you're wanting.
And there's a marketing science behind this, right? And you mentioned the word click. I mean, you're trying to drive an action. So what are some of those calls to action that we should be thinking about if we're going to upgrade our career site for a better performance?
So I really like the calls to action. I think that, you're bringing these people onto your career site, but you want to capture them. You want to create them, make them into leads so you can start nurturing in them. And that's where those call to action. So join that talent community might be a call to action. Subscribe to a job alert would be another call to action. And you want to have those on each of your different landing pages. So just think about where you put them, make it quick and easy for those individuals to apply. Another stat, everybody knows, everyone I'm probably sure is quite sick of this stat, but 75% of the individuals that come onto your career site are passive. They're not ready to make the move. They're happy to engage, they're happy to build relationships. So that's where those call to actions are so important, making those individuals visible so you can start nurturing and engaging with them, and having those calls to action there, and having sitting behind that automated nurture, so that the recruiters and the employer brand specialists aren't having to sit there and manually think about having to communicate to these individuals. It's already been done. You're showcasing that employer brand on a regular basis and building out those pipelines.
Yeah, I think we very often forget that finding a new job is life-changing. This is not like buying a magazine subscription. This isn't buying a candy bar. This isn't something you grab off the rack while you're waiting at the cash register. This is life-changing. You don't buy a house by clicking a button, do you? I mean, maybe they do in other places, but I've never heard of that, right? You look at it and then you read about it and then you research it and then you show up and then you bring an inspector. You do a lot of work. This is a life-changing purchase. To recruiters, I asked them, and this is a painful, kind of tough love question. I said, would you actually want to hire the person who was just wandering around a website and said, sure, I'll apply. I've never heard of you, but I'll hit apply? No. So then how come our websites are geared towards that transactional model of, do you want a candy bar? Do you want a donut? It's not how it should be. If you start to think that every hire should be, not just are often, but should be long tail cycles, long conversations, relationships, then you understand that getting people to apply is not the goal. Getting people to be interested is the goal. Mm-hmm. Be willing to just say, look, I'm not in a position to look for a job, but let's start feeding me stuff so I can get to know you. I can start to do my own research. Again, that authenticness comes from not being fed stuff, but by finding stuff on your own. So these kinds of call to action that say, look, we're not trying to beg you and optimize to get to the click button and apply button as soon as humanly possible. It's about providing the slow on-ramp onto understanding and feeling like this is a great place, a place where I desire, a place where I might fall in love with this kind of employer brand.
Yeah. And at the same time, if you're there and you see what you like, but you don't take a call to action, there is a marketing tactic that can be used to still capture them into a form and into a lead. And so what is this? Tell us about exit CTAs.
we're seeing, this is probably one of my favorite pieces of capability, but we're seeing great traction in this with our clients in terms of through to hire. So thinking about 1 to 2 minutes, you've got to engage your job seekers before they move off onto a competitor site, wherever they might be going. So as the cursor moves off to the left, a pop-up can come up, and that's the exit call to action. And it might say something like, hey, sorry to see that you're leaving. Why don't you join our talent community? And so we've seen a really high conversion of those individuals that complete that call to action, get nurtured behind the scenes all the way through to hired. So it's a popular, definitely a popular piece of capability that our clients are using just to capture those leads.
Yeah. I mean, imagine telling your recruiters and sourcers, hey, you may never have to make a cold call again, because I'm going to create a pipeline of people who already know who this company is and already have a sense of what they stand for and what they do and why they might want to do it. Are they hot to apply yet? No, but it's a far sight better than the in-mail that you send to the random stranger saying, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah from blah, blah, blah. Let me write 3 paragraphs of what our company is that you've never heard of and why you should be. And then people are like, whatever. This is a far better way to get recruiters and sourcers to say, I see the value of the career site, not just as a place to shunt traffic, but to say, I get to collect more information about the people I want to be involved with right here.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Oh my gosh. I love this because this is like real marketing strategy coming to recruiting. So I love the idea that exit CTAs are being used on career sites. So in the last section here, before we open it up for questions, we wanted to give you guys some real actionable takeaways that you can walk away with today. So what are some of those quick wins? Belinda, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. So we've spoken about content, getting the right content in, right messaging in the right place, and those calls to action. Then when we think about ship the MVP, I think for that piece, it's around, don't get caught up straight away in the fact that we need to change everything. We need to look at our employer brand. We've got to put the whole vision and the strategy together before we get our career site up. Get your MVP up, get that content up, because the analytics behind that will guide you in terms of then what content do we need to be creating. We need to be doing more of this, less of this. So it's then increasing that, I guess, helping with that time and efficiency when we're all so stretched. That's the first one. And or James, did you have any comments on that one before
Yeah, that MVP idea is so crucial. I think most people treat their career site like a one and done project. I've done it. I've launched it. I'm done. And you're like, no, it is a living, breathing website that you should be touching, if not every day. And frankly, it should be every day, at least every week. What are some things you can add? What are some campaigns you can add? What are some content you could be adding to it? What are some other ways? How do you do more tailoring of pieces of information? It's like there's a joke that, some projects aren't so much released as they escape. You need to get this thing out into the world, because the metrics do actually drive you and direct you and say, here's where your problems are. You thought you were, and that's the other thing. You put like a bunch of people in a room in a project to kind of campaign or, whiteboard this out. You're going to get so focused on the tiniest little detail that does not matter even a little. To a candidate, they do not care. What they want is more information. What they want is good information. And if you're going to, mess around with how does the gradient on the background of this thing, it's not quite perfectly, nobody cares. Nobody cares. They want the information. For the longest time, the 2 most important websites on the internet were Amazon and Google. And for the longest time, the 2 ugliest websites on the internet were Amazon and Google. And those 2 things are not accidental, because they were focused on what value can we provide. And if you're focused on how do we make it perfect, a perfect Fabergé egg, by the way, you can't eat those. You're never going to get it out there. So get it out there and let it react to the real world.
Amen.
And having then that self-service capability as well. So getting that data, and then I guess it comes into that next point as well, having the data and then being able to jump on and make those changes quickly and easily yourself. So because you know what you need to change, so you can go in there and make those changes as well. And whether it be personalizing the content, whether it be creating new landing pages. So we have clients who, it's hard in the hospitality and retail industries where you've got the alley workers and you're trying to find them and so on. So you might need to whip up another page to show your stay on bonus that you're going to have, or your hiring events that you might be having. Or I think we spoke about it earlier. Another common theme that's coming out and really showing great results is around having landing pages for each of your departments, because they are their own microculture. And you're wanting to sell that. Yes, I'm working for the broader organization, but what does it look like to work for sales and operations, or finance team, or the marketing team? And that's key. So I think
totally.
that's another important point.
Yeah. And I think, once you realize that a career site is just layers and layers of content connected to an ATS, you start to come up with new ways of using that platform. So one of the things I've thought of that I'm planning on doing at some point in the near future, fingers crossed, is making a page for every recruiter. It's a recruiter profile page. So there's a photo of them. Here's the office they work out of. Here are the teams they generally hire for. And then let them say what they want to say, whether it's here's how I like to hire, here's how I spend my day, here's what I'm looking for, whatever those things are. You can build a profile page for that recruiter that then that URL becomes their email signature. They can hand it to every candidate when they talk to them and say, this is who I am. This is a picture of me and my dog, or whatever, make it more human, right? Recruiters always come across, are usually kind of like a facilitator. It's like, give them some personality, give them some space to run and be a real person. Build pages for each team, build pages for each location. That you ultimately have and should think about, if I have unlimited content, how do I tell that story? On a good platform, you have unlimited space to make content. So just think about all the different stories you can tell.
And for those, we mentioned MVP, but it stands for minimum viable product. So sometimes we use acronyms, and I know not everyone might know what that acronym stands for, but it's such a great point that there's so much buildup and pressure to launching a career site. It's never done. I totally agree with James. It's like a living thing that always can be improved upon. And hopefully we've given you guys some real takeaways of things that you can do right now to improve your site. And we mentioned personalization, but Belinda, tell us, can you just spend another minute here on personalization, especially thinking about all the different candidate personas that we might be attracting to our different jobs and to our company?
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, taking that step back and going, well, who are our target audiences? Are there roles that are really hard to fill? So first one off the cuff might be, like, if you think about for healthcare and hospitals, nurses are really hard to find. So popping up a landing page that really showcases the benefits for working for that particular hospital, or diversity, equity, inclusion. We know that it's such an important piece for job seekers. Pop up a page that shows your journey. No one expects that journey to be perfect, and it's evolving. So what employee resource groups have you got? And really showcasing that information as well. And then you might have, career mobility. So what is on offer? Not just, we don't expect people to be stagnant in their roles. People want development. What does that look like? And then bringing it back with that employee generated content. Have individuals or your employees, they love sharing their stories around their career progression. They were once a graduate and they've moved all the way up and now they head up the department. I mean, that is an amazing story to show the opportunities and development within an organization. And you can create out those landing pages, really personalize that content based on those different target audiences.
Yeah, I think about
and that's really the pro tip.
Yeah. That's a lot of pro tips, actually. If you look at the data around how people look for jobs, when you break it down by demographics, it turns out that the way I look for a job and the way you look for a job will be different. The things that motivate me and the things that motivate you are different. And if you break it by demographics, you might say that if a white male developer is focused on what are the perks and what are the hours of a job, but it turns out a Black woman developer is more focused on what is the culture, what is the level of comfort, what is the open and accessibility of information. Those are different things. And if you try to shoehorn all of that information into one job, you're going to end up kind of diluting and muddying the waters. But if you have a pipeline job, you can make the same job in 3 or 4 different flavors and tailored to different audiences. And not just to say, here's the one for white men, because that sounds weird, but more to say, look, we know that some people care about this job job because it offers, autonomy and fast paced and, high levels of status and high growth. And for some people, they might want that job because allows them to grow. It allows them to care about it. And that one of them is going to have perhaps a day in the life video, and one of them is going to have a video from leadership. You can actually tailor that stuff, not just to the team, but to the motivations behind it. And then as a recruiter, you say, okay, if I know this person is a white woman, I know which of those jobs to send it to. Because by the way, we also have pictures of more white women, not all, because that's weird. But you put more than you might normally. And then for men, you don't maybe that's the standard one. But allowing you to really tailor those messages to different motivations and personalities, that's something that any platform should let you do. And you really kind of need to take advantage of that. I think that, you look at Textio or you look at Universum data and you look at all that stuff, they'll tell you that women and men look at this stuff differently. Rather than find some sort of fuzzy middle that is everybody, some sort of average, which never works, figure out how to tailor those messages to those audiences.
Yeah, this is also, I think, a tie into this next slide here on enhanced job listings, because I really like the career site job, description format where there is a sidebar that allows you to add links to other jobs, links to or displaying videos and images. So to your point, James, like it allows you to sort of find your path, and you see content that speaks to you, and then you can continue on in your candidate journey. Is that something that you see also, Belinda, with Clinch and the customers that you guys have?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really popular. It's that low-hanging fruit that we were talking about. So having the enhanced job listings, having that job description page that really showcases your brand as well. So having videos there, having those recommended jobs and recommended content, that insight and information into the organization. Because we know, as we were talking about, it's the first, 85% of job seekers, it's the first place they go to. So you want to make sure that you're really showcasing that brand, leaving that lasting impression before they hit that back button and off they go onto their doing something else. So it's just it's a wasted opportunity if you don't start thinking about, well, what do we do? Because other organizations are doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you think about, you probably have a document called Our Culture or Working Here, right? Everybody has one of these, right? But that's not true from your development team and your sales team and your legal team. So what if you made 3 different versions of that? And on sales jobs, you link to the sales culture. And on the right. development job, you can really tailor that stuff, because if you force people to go looking for it, they're going to find a reason to not. They're going to they're going to get distracted and they're going to never come back in. You want to feed them. And that's why that landing page mentality is really crucial. Here are the 10 things I know you're going to look for. I'm giving them to you. I'm not forcing you to go find them. It's not a scavenger hunt. This isn't a game. Here, I was thoughtful enough to provide them to you. And frankly, the fact that you were trying to be thoughtful enough to provide that stuff, it's so telling of what this culture and that brand really is. So it's not just what you do, it's the fact that you're doing it says so much.
Yeah. And making it quick and easy to find. So often you look on a career site and you're like, I wouldn't even know where to start. And so you then move off. So just making it, being respectful of that and thinking about, if I'm a job seeker or a candidate, what do I want to find? And can I just find that easily with 1 or 2 clicks? Because I'm interested in the marketing, bang, I'll go straight into that marketing department and I can see exactly what I want about the culture, and I can see all of those positions available at that time as well. So quick, easy, and efficient, I think, is a key thing for job seekers.
And you're touching on this next topic, which is around the complexities, because if your processes are holding you back, if the lack of support from internal stakeholders is holding you back, if the technology is holding you back, well, then you're not going to be able to use all these great quick win pro tips that you guys are sharing. So in the last couple of minutes, help us navigate some of these complexities. Belinda, why don't you start?
Oh, yes. Well, this can be a challenge. So your marketing team owns the career site and owns the branding, and they're proud of that branding. They've worked really, really hard on it. They don't want to let it go. And they're worried about what is that going to look like on the career site. So this is where that communication, and I actually think it's taking a step back and going, who are our key stakeholders and how are we going to communicate and manage them along the way? And what type of communication, how are we going to engage them to make them feel like they're involved? And this is a key one, your marketing team. So, showing them what does that look like? So for example, on Clinch, it's all hard coded in there. So you're not going to touch the colors of the brand. That's part of it. We understand how important that is. And so being able to then reassure that marketing team and bring them on that journey of what that looks like and what are the benefits. They understand lead conversion. They're working on that with their sales team. So they then understand what that looks like when you take them on that journey from a candidate and job seeker perspective.
Yep.
Yeah. And
I'm thinking that, oh, sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, politically, I think there's another opportunity in that is if you know that 85% of your traffic lands on the job page, turns out your committee who's helping you design the site, all they're going to care about is the homepage. Feel free to sacrifice the homepage that nobody cares about, provided you get more autonomy on the landing page. That's going to get better work done. And then once you launch, you can start to show how valuable that was. And then you start to elbow them out a little bit and say, look, let's take some of what we've learned and apply it to the homepage and not turn it into such a frou-for-all. Being political about some of that stuff and knowing where your value really is really crucial.
Yeah. Well, we have a few more slides on navigating complexities that I think I'm going to ask if you guys will help me turn this into a blog post, because we want to help them navigate a number of complexities that we know that you guys are facing, but I'm conscious of the time. So why don't we wrap up with your pro tips? So James, why don't you go first?
Oh, you made me say authentic again. Oh my goodness. But yeah,
authentic and desire.
I know it is about desire, but that desire comes from being clear. No one just desires a phone. They desire the iPhone 13, blah, 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 blah. No one desires tickets. They desire Taylor Swift tickets. Be specific. Authentic and specificity are the same. And that means the more you do that, the more you're honest about it, the more unique you become naturally. It's not about how do I become unique? That's like saying, how do I become funny? No, you either are or you aren't. And start by just being who you are and being honest about that. And then ultimately it's making sure your story's out there so that people can decide they want to invest and buy in on your brand and what you have to offer. The more you have to cajole them, the more you have to persuade them, the harder this job is. But if you simply say, this is who we are, and these are the kinds of people who get what we're about and find value, more people will say, I get that. I understand that. I want to be a part of that.
And Belinda, how about you?
Well, I agree with everything James just said, but I think repurposing that content. So 2 ways of looking at that will be, thinking about what do you already have and tailoring and shifting that based on that target audience. So you might do it once for one audience and then just change it because the messaging is going to be different. And repurposing in terms of looking at all the different channels. What are those channels that our quality talent are sitting in, and repurposing and throwing that out to those different social media channels or diversity group channels that you know about. And then the other piece is around the self-service career site. We know how time poor everybody is, but you need to be onto your career site managing it. It's never once and done. So being able to do that yourself. So that self-service piece, I think, is so important. So you can just go on, make a quick change, then leave it, look at your analytics, come back, because that will help guide you in terms of what you need to do.
Amazing. You both are amazing. Thank you guys so much for sharing your expertise with all of us today.
It's a compliment for you, James.
there are some questions coming in. I know we've run out of time, but I would say put your questions in and we'll collect those questions, submit those to Belinda and James, and then we'll put them in a blog post on rallyrecruitmentmarketing.com. One of them was, someone asked, can you send us examples of great career sites? And so that would be a great follow-up if the folks from Clinch could reach out to the folks who registered for today's webinar with some great examples. I know people would appreciate that.
Oh, yes, I'm very passionate about that. I do that all the time. I'm always looking at the career sites of our clients going, oh, that's excellent. I love what they've done there. Or we give feedback, going, oh, why don't you think about this, this, and this? So you've got a topic that I'm very passionate about. So I'd love to share some of the great work that's being done.
Well, thank you. Thank you both. I really appreciate you guys being here today. So thank you all for joining us today. This was an awesome, very lively discussion, packed with tons of experience and pro tips that I hope you can walk away with today. So thanks, James. Thanks, Belinda.
Pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thanks,
great
Lori.
day.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.